Welcome back to the channel, everybody. You were watching Probably at Disney, and as you're probably aware, we are supposed to be on the verge of a new Disney era with described turbocharged growth for Disney Cruise Line, Disneyland, and Walt Disney World. However, as I discussed in a previous video, this new Disney decade is not without its challenges, and at this very moment, there are growing concerns that this era might be cut short. Here's the situation. Companies who make the ride systems that Disney uses, as well as the materials and parts Disney needs, comes from overseas, and due to new economic uncertainty, talks of recession and tariffs, there is the potential for Disney to backtrack on its massive upcoming slate of projects, as they may end up costing more than originally projected, coupled with concerns over a drop in international tourism and simply too many doubts to make the investment a sure thing. And I should mention, despite what maybe Disney executives want to do or may want to build, it's important to remember that they get pressure from their board to cut back on spending and to shift into savings mode if things go a certain way. Now, I want to make clear, these are very fluid times. Things are changing day by day, so this may not even be an issue a month from now, or it might be what everyone's talking about 6 months from now. We simply don't know, but at this moment in time, which is April of 2025, there is the possibility for delays or changes to Disney's upcoming plans for its stateside parks. And with that in mind, I thought, let's break down the bulk of Disney's upcoming slate, project by project, both theme park lands and attractions, and discuss what is likely to still happen regardless of the economic climate, and what could get scaled back, delayed, or outright canceled altogether. But keep in mind, this is speculation in more ways than one, and I want to mention that regardless of the project being discussed, it was someone's vision. Imagineers poured their time and energy into it, and I want to treat that with respect because I wouldn't wish it on anyone for their work to go unrealized. Also, I will not be including any of this year's coming attractions, including Test Track, Animal Kingdom's Zootopia show, the Walt Disney animatronic for Disneyland, Magic Kingdom Starlight Parade, or any of the Hollywood studio shows because they're highly unlikely to be affected. So with that being said, and if you're ready, let's get into what might be canceled and what might be saved from Disney's slate of theme park announcements, beginning with Disney's Lakeshore Lodge. Set to open in 2027, Disney's Lakeshore Lodge is Walt Disney World's next DVC resort, which was actually in the works before the pandemic, was delayed and then seemingly canceled, and then was revived a few months ago with the new name, which is Lakeshore Lodge. This resort will sit next to the Fort Wilderness Resort and Campground and on the site of the former River Country Water Park. I have so many questions about this resort because the only concept art we have is the art Disney unveiled years ago and prior to COVID, and even then reviews were a bit mixed. So, is Disney sticking with that old vision? Have they changed anything? Is that Tiana's restaurant still part of the plan? We just simply don't know at this point, and that raises the question of whether this project is now in danger. And while I think the mystery surrounding it is a little strange and is likely indicative of some design changes, I think it's safe and for several reasons. First of all, this project is already going vertical, meaning Disney has likely secured most of the supplies it needs. But another reason is how much Disney World relies on DVC and how much it contributes to Walt Disney World financially, and especially on paper to the degree that, and this is what I've heard, if Disney were to stop building DVCs, it would be seen as a financial loss. So that is why Lakeshore Lodge, in my view, is secure. Another project that has been in the works for what feels like years at this point is Disneyland's The World of Avatar, which is slated for Disney California Adventure. Based on Avatar: The Way of Water, this is going to be a Pandora inspired by the second film, not the first like what you see at Animal Kingdom. And Disney CEO Bob Iger first teased a Avatar project for Disneyland years ago, and Imagineering unveiled a lot of details about it at D23 in 2024. The big question is just where in Disney California Adventure this land is going to go, with the leading theory being that it will replace the Hollywood backlot despite a few caveats. So, is it still coming? I think it's safe to say this is a project Disney wants to do and is quite a ways into development, but I do think it is a contender for a significant delay if this economic trajectory continues, because it is a huge undertaking with a super advanced boat ride that needs to rival the likes of Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom. Plus, making it work for Disney California Adventure is likely going to require some additional cost, and that's why I think it could be pushed to the back burner. The real question I have is whether this Pandora has a better shot of breaking ground first than the surprise Coco ride that Disney announced at D23 and also for Disney California Adventure. And while I'm more intrigued by what Imagineers would do with the new Pandora, I'm going to predict that of the two projects, that Coco ride is the most likely to happen of the two. I could be wrong, but a single ride is more doable than a land in theory. Plus, Disney did give a timeline for this attraction, saying work would begin in 2026. And now that Coco 2 is in development, I think it makes this ride more of a priority. But in terms of the Disneyland Resort's future, including its now Disneyland Forward, I think at the moment it's going to stay in development for longer than fans initially hoped, and that's a huge bummer since Disney had teased the possibility of lands and rides from Tokyo Disney's Fantasy Springs. So I think that's going to be on pause for a bit. Now, before I switch back to Walt Disney World to talk about its many upcoming lands and attractions, there's one last Disneyland expansion I need to discuss, and that is the 2 new Avengers Campus rides coming to Disney California Adventure, beginning with Stark Flight Lab. Since we have seen footage of this ride system already, and it doesn't appear to be an overly complicated attraction, I think this ride may be one of the safest we talk about today. I think we'll definitely see it within a year or two. As for Avengers Infinity Defense, no, I don't think it's going to be canceled, but there are some things about it that made me think it could be delayed, but yet there are some elements that make me think that it's totally safe. So let me get into that. The danger this attraction faces is its supposed scale and complexity, and that a significant show building is going to be required in order to house the attraction and the ride system itself. But on the other hand, it's already been delayed and changed multiple times at this point, and the last update suggested it's going to be screen heavy in 3D, so maybe it's not going to be quite as advanced as previously thought. Also, Disney has already broken ground, and they're likely filming actor cameos now, as Avengers Doomsday is currently in production. And this is worth noting for not only this ride, but all others we talk about today. Disney now reportedly factors in the money projected to be made from Lightning Lane sales into a ride's budget. So Lightning Lane may be what gets us new rides regardless of the economy. And if so, glad to see it's finally doing something good for the parks. But if Lightning Lane profit for Avengers Infinity Defense isn't quite enough to cover rising expenses, Disney could just as easily stop. They could just as easily keep those MCU actors' cameos in the can for a few years, and since they haven't quite gone vertical with construction, they could hit pause. So in my estimation, Avengers Infinity Defense could go either way at this point, and I think it's going to hinge on just how badly Disney feels they need it. Now let's switch back to the East Coast to address Walt Disney World's projects, beginning with Monstropolis coming to Hollywood Studios and replacing Muppets Courtyard and Muppet Vision 3D in as early as June of this year. And this story is so interesting because construction walls should have already gone up in one corner of the courtyard, and they haven't yet. And as I've talked about many times, this project is unpopular with the exception of the Monsters Inc. Door Vault coaster. I think everybody wants that coaster. That's not up for debate. What is, though, is the Monsters Inc. overlay of the land, since it's going to remove Muppet Vision 3D. So will the coaster still happen? I think it will, especially with Lightning Lane being a consideration. But I do think it is in danger of being delayed due to its ride system and Disney's need for steel. If so, that would be a case of history repeating itself, since supposedly we would already have this coaster at Hollywood Studios if the financial crisis of 2008 hadn't happened. The real question I have is whether the Monsters Inc. overlay of the courtyard will still take place. Since it's set dressing and a new show, and they're likely to make their money back on merch and dining, I don't see why it wouldn't keep moving forward unless they have trouble with contracts or they really want to cut back on cost. After all, is it worth spending money on something if guests don't really want it? Would it look better on paper if they saved this cost? That is the mystery. But since Muppet Vision is supposed to close in the coming weeks, I think we'll have our answer very soon, and maybe by the time you're watching this. Now that Muppet mystery brings me to another, and that is the Muppet overlay of Rock and Roller Coaster. Typically, I would say this is happening for sure. I mean, Aerosmith has been on the way out for a while. The ride system and the track already exist. It's in place. It's good to go. Therefore, the overlay itself is mostly sound and pre-show. But what's weird is that we don't have an official title yet, and we've heard little about this since it was first announced, now coupled with the lack of progress on Muppet's Courtyard. Whether that is due to the new uncertainty surrounding Monsters Inc. and the Muppets, I don't know. But for now, I'm gonna say yes, it's still happening, but that doesn't mean I'm confident that everything Disney announced previously is still guaranteed. Now, since we're already talking about Hollywood Studios, let's address the rumored announcement for Animation Courtyard. Sources have said and have continued to say, with confidence I might add, that something is happening at Animation Courtyard that Disney has not yet revealed, but many, myself included, believe they would make it public on May 22nd. I ran through a bunch of scenarios and theories about this, and I still hope we hear something, but at this moment, I'm not so sure. If Disney is truly thinking about cutting back on projects they've already announced, it just doesn't make sense to announce more, unless maybe it's one that wouldn't be affected by the need for overseas materials. That would likely mean it's smaller than we're hoping for and probably not a ride, so I'm not sure if I like that scenario either. But in my opinion, my fear is that this mystery project may remain just that. Now, before I talk about Animal Kingdom and Magic Kingdom's projects, we're going to pause and keep it at Hollywood Studios for a what you probably didn't know about Disney segment. Hollywood Studios' main street, which is known as Hollywood Boulevard, is designed to evoke the 1930s and the golden age of film, but when you turn down Sunset Boulevard, which has Tower of Terror at the end of the street, you're actually time traveling into the 1940s. And here's how you know. The date Twilight Zone Tower of Terror was struck by lightning was October 31st, 1939, and you're clearly visiting this part of Hollywood after that event has taken place. And the Legends of Hollywood store, which looks like a movie theater, has posters on display for Pinocchio, Fantasia, and the Three Caballeros, all of which premiered in the 1940s. The music in the background has also changed to reflect the decade. You may even hear It's Been a Long, Long Time, which is Captain America's song with Peggy Carter, if you know your Marvel lore. And there are other visual clues that this is wartime Hollywood, including ads to buy war bonds, as well as other posters, signs, and even a victory garden all around the area surrounding Rosie's All-American Cafe. So, next time you go to Hollywood Studios and you enter the park, know that you are in the 1930s, but if you take a right-hand turn down Sunset, you have been transported into the 1940s. Moving on over to Animal Kingdom, here there is a whole new land currently in progress, and that is Tropical Americas. This new land, replacing Dinoland USA, is going to have an Encanto ride, an Indiana Jones ride that's replacing Dinosaur, and a new carousel offering animals from a wide range of Disney films and franchises, from Winnie the Pooh to Finding Nemo. Disney closed half of Dinoland earlier this year to begin work on the Encanto ride, with phase 2 of construction to involve Indiana Jones and to transform Restaurantosaurus. And that makes this one of the more unique projects we're talking about today, given that it's already so far into construction and the fact that Disney intends to have this entire land open by 2027. So is it safe? Are only some attractions safe? Are we talking about a delay here? In my opinion, I think Tropical Americas is likely in the clear. We will see this land. I don't think cancellation is a concern. Whether it makes that 2027 deadline is the only thing I'm iffy about. We still don't know much about the Encanto ride or if Disney has all the materials and ride system in the US right now. And since that is key to the land, I think they'll remain committed to getting it done regardless, but just when, that's the mystery. As for the Indiana Jones ride, I think it is also 100% safe from cancellation and possibly even delays, since it's not getting a new ride system or track. It's a reskin, meaning the changes in the money are going to set dressing and decor, with the most elaborate changes being effects and animatronics. So as far as I know, Indiana Jones should be one of the easiest things Disney can get done. The only way I think it could get delayed is if Encanto pushes back the opening for the land. All right, let's get to the two-part project that likely everybody wants to know about, and that is Magic Kingdom's Villains Land and the 2 new Cars attractions set to replace the Rivers of America in Frontierland. As I've said in a past video, I think Disney's concerns about the Cars rides are real due to both the very public backlash this project has received and now the potential for an economic downturn and rising costs. What we don't know is the details of the ride system apart from it having a track. We also don't know what the second kid-friendly Cars ride's going to be. And we don't know if Disney feels Cars merch in Lightning Lane sales for these rides will make up for the potential rising cost. There's also the question of excavation, draining the rivers, and exactly when the rivers are going to close. What we do know, however, is permits were recently filed for project offices and more in order to oversee the river's construction. So currently, this project appears to be safe. Disney is taking all the steps it needs to get started. But here is the issue. I doubt Disney wants to drain the rivers and then get hit with a delay or rising cost, resulting in the river sitting empty or becoming a years-long construction site. That is not going to help the narrative of this Cars project at all, and as I've discussed in previous videos, it's already being seen as an unpopular investment. I've also heard rumblings that more changes are still in the works for Frontierland as a whole, so will they want to move forward with the Cars rides if those plans are also in danger of being budget cut? If it already wasn't obvious, this is a mystery in more ways than one. But again, currently, Disney is moving forward with it since they're taking all those steps. But would I be surprised by a delay or some sort of change? Absolutely not. As for Villains Land, I don't think that project is in danger of being canceled. Disney executives and Imagineers have mentioned many times how the fan response to a Villains Land is what made them greenlight it in the first place. And clearly, they believe this is their next big keystone project. But I do think it's also in danger of being delayed and pushed back at this moment in time. And I can't help but wonder if Disney has crunched the numbers to see if cutting the Cars rides may help them financially make Villains Land happen if they end up in a pinch. So overall, Due to the changing nature of the United States' current economic situation, it's tough to say when we'll know the fate of certain lands and attractions, if that need even arises at all. But I do think we'll know something about the Muppets in the coming weeks, which will give us an idea of whether the company is truly concerned. Also, this is a huge date for you to keep in mind. May 7th is the Walt Disney Company's Q2 earnings call, which is sure to be very telling and address some of these things. So that is all I have for now, but I'd like to know what you think about all this. Which lands or attractions do you think might be in danger of cancellation should the need arise? Do you agree with my assessments? Are there any facts or points that I missed? Please share in the comments because I think we're all trying to figure this out and likely right along with Disney. And if you enjoyed today's video, if you're also interested in Disney Park news and analysis, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. These are such interesting times and I'd love to have you along for the ride as we cover it all. But regardless, thank you for taking the time to watch and I hope you have a magical day.